All right, guys, thank you for joining here. So this is Amena K. Thornton, and I am broadcasting this at One Up Podcast as well as the YouTube channel under my name, Amena K. Thornton. And today we have Seth here. Seth, you're going to have to tell me your last name. I am not very good saying names, but I try my best.
That's okay. Pruzansky. Yeah, I'm not very good at names either. So
Pruzansky. Pruzansky?
you got it.
Perfect. I'll try my best. Pruzansky. So I have Seth L. Pruzansky here, and then he's coming on today, sharing his message of hope. It's a program that I've developed here for the podcast One Up, and the whole idea of One Up is to give inspiration through mindset, through motivational talks, and through just self-reflection on people's successes in general. And Seth agreed to come in here, and he's going to tell us this interesting story of his in his life. He's a real person. He's got a real story, and I love real news. So that's why I was so drawn into trying this out and seeing how people latched onto it, and then all of a sudden I've got I think I got 20 people over the next couple of days, so I'm super stoked. Seth, I like to call Seth's story prison to purity, because I think it just fits what he told me so far. It just seems to fit him, and just looking at him now, I know that it's just right on the spot, and I hope he agrees with that.
I do, absolutely.
So, Seth, I don't know where to start. Can you tell us how long ago, and then I guess tell us a little background about yourself.
Okay, so I was born a super sensitive kid. I was born with a perfect family, perfect for the first part of my life. Then as I got older, I was taught that the way that I was raised, which was living off the land, being kind of in harmony with nature, didn't apply to the way the world had become, and that I had to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, something to fit in modern society. But as a result of moving out of the woods where I grew up, going into a more suburban area, I experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of bullying, a lot of downward spiral type of stuff started happening to me. And without going into a whole book, which I have a book coming out about it really soon, essentially what I'm going to talk about today is I was never quote unquote prison material. I don't really think any of us are, essentially, but I got arrested for selling marijuana. I didn't need to be doing it. I had great legitimate businesses that were floating everything, that were making my life beautiful, abundant, happy. But I was kind of in this old mindset of oh, I'm just going to do it anyway on the side. And it's almost legal, because at that point it wasn't quite legal like it is now. And I've always been a huge advocate of hemp,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'd like to jump in here. I feel bad too for people that has stories that you do, because we were at the cuffs. How old are you? Just if you
40.
want to. So you're 45. I'm almost 39. So I was in that era too, where all the movies and things were always just very it always wanted you to push that boundary, and then all of a sudden, now it's legal, you can actually buy it in states. And so I know what you mean. It was just why?
Yeah.
So give me a second. I'm going to see what's going on here real fast. Okay, because it took off the watch party for some whatever reason, but the live is still playing, so I'll just let it do its thing. Either way, so yeah, I can imagine. So how long ago was this? Was this many years ago, or was this not so long ago?
It happened in 2009,
Okay.
but I got a 5-year sentence. I was released. I did 3 years fully with a year in pretrial, but essentially this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I got arrested, sentenced. I was on pretrial for a year. I got indicted. I lost every single thing that I owned. The government took all of it, literally just completely wiped out my life savings. I had formed a company with one of my closest friends. They were so like shocked because it was on the news, it was everywhere. They asked me to resign because they didn't know what to do. They were just so like in shock by it. I resigned. Long story short, I lost everything that I had up until that point, and I was really sick. I had a physical illness that I had been trying to treat through,
The
typical
marijuana.
medical route, through naturopathic route. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. Like it was really severe medical condition that almost killed me when I first had it. So I had gotten it under control, but I hadn't fully gotten it under control. So I knew that when I was going into an environment like prison, my needs weren't going to be addressed. So I got in there after just being devastated. Okay. And this is a story of hope, right? Like it sounds like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
no,
yeah. No, we
just,
gotta tell
yes, I'm
the
just giving the
story
background on
too. Yeah.
like it was complete and utter devastation at the level of ego, right? Like your entire world comes
It's
crashing
changed.
down. It's the biggest ego blow ever, like on so many levels. It was like on every level. And so by the time I finally was actually sentenced and then put into prison, I was like, holy crap. Like how like I'm a kid, I grew up as a kid from the woods from a good family. Like I am not made for this type of environment. You're suddenly in there with people that you might not resonate with it, and then you probably cross the street if you saw them coming towards you. Those kind of people.
Hmm.
But that's not a judgment on them. That was a judgment of how afraid I was at that time of what I was facing. So getting in there sick, not feeling, going through all this stuff and just feeling like I had ruined my life and being around people that I did not want to be around. It goes on and on, the sad stories that I had to deal with, that the people in there with me were dealing with. It's just such a negative, hard thing. I did the only thing that I knew how to do, which was take my awareness and direct all my attention inwards, literally inwards. So it's like this.
Did you
Imagine,
stay out of like the main? Do they have like I guess where you guys can come out during the day and do activities and things? And were you
yeah,
like kind of just like I'm just gonna use this time to just self reflect?
it was, for me, it was such an intense experience. Like imagine being somewhere where you're around hundreds and hundreds of people who are all trying to trigger you at the same time for every different thing that ever triggered you. It's like that kind of a like
Very, very a test of willpower, right?
and you see like other people who are in there, they can't handle it, they just break down and lose it and fall apart, and you can empathize, like you can feel like how you would do that, because there were times where I was like, oh my god, like you want to break down because you just can't believe that this is happening. And then getting in there and seeing the internal mechanics of what is actually happening with our prison system and how rotten it actually is, how biased it is towards people that should not be in there. People, like to the Black, African, all of what we would say are minorities here, it's awful what they're doing to these people. It's modern day slavery.
Mm.
And it needs to be reformed in the most dramatic way. But it's like one of these things that's such a mess. Nobody knows how to reform it. But that's why, like, my message here is the reform comes from us as individuals, like really stepping up our game. So long story, I was so triggered by everybody, by everything, by every moment that I was in there, that I did the only thing that I could do. As I said, I took all of my attention and directed it inwards. And what I mean by that is, it was like, okay, there's Seth, right? This person with this story that had all these bad things happen that
Yes.
had brought me up to that point.
Now,
But
let me jump in here.
yeah,
At that time, did you blame yourself for getting you in there, or were you like blaming like the court system and like other people and influences?
everything. I blame myself. I blame them. It's like I knew ultimately it was my fault. Like I didn't have to do that. But a close friend of mine who I had known for 15 years actually set me up because he got in trouble.
Oh, so
And
you were
so
just like, that's why,
yeah,
that's that.
so your victim mentality
Hmm.
just goes into full effect. But when we're truly honest with ourselves, we know that nobody is really at fault here. And that's where this all goes to. It's like I had to take responsibility for every single thing that had ever happened to me in my entire life, even before all that, and recognize that, okay, I don't like the appearance of what I'm seeing around me, but there's a part of me internally that is projecting this appearance. It's coming out through me. And if I don't address the root cause of what is allowing that to happen, then I'm going to continue suffering. I'm going to stay stuck. So, as I was saying, there's Seth, right? This story, this ego, all this hurt, this wounding. But then I like realized I'm like, okay, there's that part of me, but then there's this other part of me where my heart is beating. I'm not doing that. My lungs are breathing. There's thoughts arising in my mind. There's these mind-blowing, like awe-inspiring physiological reactions taking place in my body that are happening faster than the speed of light at all times. And
And
it's like,
did you experience most of that, I guess, when you were had that alone time where you really got to really think about, like, dig deep? And then when you had those experiences, how long were you in that? What would you say, like inner reflection periods?
yeah, yeah.
How long did they last? How long did that
So
happen?
here's the thing, like, what was the first part of your question again? Say that again, because there are two parts.
So, yeah, I did. So, okay, when you had these experiences, that's when you were basically alone in a cell. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Did you share it with somebody? So I'm just trying to give
Yeah,
you.
they sometimes, like, usually you're in there with 1 to 3 other people, and
Okay.
it changes. Like, things are being changed, and they do that intentionally just to keep it so that you don't ever get quote unquote comfortable, which
Oh,
you're not going to get
okay.
comfortable in there no
So,
matter
but
what.
so yeah, you can't get comfortable. You're never alone.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but when you did get some time to yourself, you actually got to dive deep in inner reflection. And then
yeah.
how long did that usually last? Like, how long did you have those sessions usually for?
So I literally would spend hours and hours every day doing this. It's almost like there's never any alone time because you're always surrounded by people, and they're always telling you what to do, and you're always like,
Trying
so
to block it out.
the only alone time is like putting earplugs in my ear, shutting my eyes, and like literally going within. And that's the only way you can not be in this external environment that is triggering you and causing you to suffer, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I would do this for hours and hours every day. And believe me, it was not easy to do at first because in the beginning, there was no peace. There was nothing but stories and victim and like it was just, but slowly, what I realized is that the way I had been perceiving reality up until that point had become a habit, right?
Hmm.
So these stories, these beliefs, these ideas were habituated into my perception of reality. And I realized that if I was going to actually change, I would have to change the program or the habit that
Yes.
was
Yes.
causing me to suffer.
Yes,
And
and
so,
it's very powerful, like what you were saying. Where you have to realize it is a victim mentality when you're offloading it to somebody else. And we all go through this. We all, like, it's so easy to blame somebody else,
yeah,
even if they've done you like total wrong. And because it's just like, well, they did this to me, and it was clearly their intent to do this. But we have when you said you reached this higher inner peace. I've been in similar situations where I finally awoke and realized that it's a power release. So if you're releasing that power to someone else, you're not only taking the victim role, but you're also releasing. Not, I wouldn't say your responsibility, but you're releasing that power where you can't even take control of your own life. Like you look for other people to take control of your life, the good and the bad. So once if agree with me, if this makes sense, it relates to your story too. Um, but I see where you can, when you take back that power and take the blame, no matter if it originally, like I said, it was somebody else's, obviously, thing that they did to you. But once you forgive them and you take the blame, and you get that power back, you're like, wow, I could do anything with my life. Like I can really do anything, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And that you're right. You're absolutely right. And where a lot of people get hung up is that they don't realize a lot of things. They don't know what they have to do to actually overcome the old part of themselves that's suffering. But they also don't know that if they were to know how to do it and commit to it, they would overcome themselves and they could literally create a new way of being,
Yeah.
new habits that were focused more on the elevated emotions and joy you feel for creating a healthy future instead of staying in a victim mentality of the past, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
realized that's what, for me, it was like I had developed through trauma, because when you're in a fight or flight stress hormone type of state, your body, you're like really addicted to the chemicals that your body is producing,
Oh yeah,
and
true.
they're related to the thoughts, the stories, the feelings that are all associated with that. So it's like, okay, what's really happening is that I'm fully addicted to this negative
That
past
feeling.
internal state. And it's like, okay, to break this habit, what is it going to take? And that's why I was saying, it's like I had to realize that there's something greater than me happening within me, you
Now,
know.
how long did that take? Like you said, you were in there for a total of actual 3 years, right? But you had a 5-year sentence. How long were you in there before you had this awakening?
Well, it was a progressive thing. It was something that
Okay.
happened
Okay,
slowly.
it wasn't like instant. It was okay.
No,
Slowly
no.
understanding how this is all working. Okay.
Had I really known what I was doing, it could have happened instantly. Like
Hmm.
it literally could have happened instantly. But because I didn't have a roadmap and I was kind of in there trying to figure this out on my own, and like, I had to, it just got to a point where I realized that, okay, there's me perceiving reality now in this moment. And when I did that without thinking or feeling past stuff, I felt amazing,
Yeah.
even in there. So I was like, okay, I'm addicted to my past.
Hmm.
And I realized that that was a habit. So I knew I had to keep bringing myself into the present, you could say, but I had to keep doing that and training myself to feel good, even when everything else around me was a good enough reason to not feel good. I could have
Yeah,
blamed
definitely.
the inmates, I could have blamed the prison guards, I could have blamed the government, I could have blamed everybody and everything for my station in life. But I realized that if I was doing that, I was feeding into this old habitual way of being that was my past.
Hmm.
And I realized that I was like, I don't want to live like that. I want a future. I
Yeah.
want to create something good and healthy. So because I didn't have a roadmap, it took me about a year of
Okay. Yeah.
doing this
Really. Really.
every single day and hours a day, just because I was battling myself. I was like literally battling this old part of myself and not knowing how to, you know, like I
Yeah, yeah, you
truly
didn't.
didn't
It's
know.
not like you had a book or anything, right?
No.
I mean, I actually discovered, the same thing. So just by deep meditation, just like that alone time. So yeah, I can resonate with that part of your story definitely. Where it's just like you kind of get it, and then you really have to like train yourself and just like, I'm sick of feeling this way. I don't want to feel like this, and that's what I would literally say to like snap myself back. I would literally say it out loud, like, I don't like feeling like this. I don't want to be this way. And, I try to focus on anything but, what I was dealing with. So I totally understand that. It is an inner struggle. It really is. So let's see, you started, let's see. So okay, you got out, right?
Yeah.
So after that, when you came back, so you said you had a business before. I imagine that business like went on without you, or was it
It did.
stolen,
It went
or?
on without me. I wasn't a part of it. Um, but I was lucky that there was anything available for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, but what happened was this: as a result of committing to this internal state, developing it, what I realized is that there's a natural purity inside of me. It's inside all of us, you know?
Yeah.
But unless we become aware of it, and unless we actively take steps to really align our perception with that, then it's kind of elusive and it's never there. But because I knew it was there and I had trained myself so unrelentingly to identify and associate with that feeling of wholeness and purity that was there, I eventually created a new state of being that was liberating, that felt amazing, that felt healthy, that I trusted life. Even in a horrible environment like that, I still trusted it. And when
Yeah.
I got into that, I knew, I was like, everybody suddenly looked like children to me. Like all the bad people
Yeah. Yeah.
were just children who had been hurt and wounded. And
And
that's
you
all it
recognize
felt.
that in them. You saw that
Yeah.
quality.
And we all are that. And so it's like you have new levels of understanding and empathy, and that come from you choosing to relate with your own purity. So I knew that when I got out, I wanted to create something that reflected that natural purity that is inside of us.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, I ran into a friend who I had known who had purchased one of the last great natural sources of spring water in the world,
Huh.
and it's in North America. Most people don't know what an actual spring is. They don't
Well, go
actually.
ahead and explain it.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that a spring is just water that is
Yeah.
you drill into the ground. No, this is water that comes up to the earth's surface of its own accord. You don't take water out of it. It's the earth freely giving water. So this water has been purified to a degree that is just, even the hydrogeologists and water chemists who study it can't believe that there's still something
Huh.
this naturally pure. So
Yeah.
I had a friend who bought it, preventing this giant corporation from getting it and destroying it because they would have drilled into it and ruined it. And he became the steward of preserving and protecting this great source.
Hmm.
And so to me, that source represents this natural purity
Yeah.
that is inside all of us, but if we don't drink from it, we're not going to be purified. Same way, like if we don't create a habit out of identifying with this purity inside of us, it's not going to purify us. We're just going
Hmm.
to keep being who we were instead of who we have the potential to be, you
Yeah.
know?
I understand.
So one thing led to another, and it just all worked out. And I rebranded what he had because I wanted to tell the geologic history of that source. And that's what this is, Tourmaline Spring.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the state of Maine gemstone. There's just so many good reasons to call it that. The source is called Summit Spring. It's already has like a 300-year history of one of the naturally purest drinking waters in the world.
Yeah.
So
What's he doing there?
at that point, I didn't have anything left. I didn't have any
Oh,
money. I didn't have any. My brother had a company and they would help me out with that, that we started a raw food snack company that we still
oh.
have today. It's amazing. Living Nutz, it's still going. And
Does it have a website?
my brother and his fiance run
Does it have
that.
a website?
Yes, livingnuts.com.
So living nuts.
Yep, livingnuts with
Okay,
a
and
Z dot net.
it's all one. Okay,
Yep.
guys. So you hear that? It's livingnuts.com, and they can buy it. So it's a natural food. Is it granola or is
So
it?
they're all sprouted nuts. So we
Oh, I love
germinate,
sprouted nuts. Yeah.
flavor, and dehydrate nuts and seeds. We're like literally, it's 18 years old, that company. We
Okay.
started this way back,
So
and
you have
but
different nuts that you can buy through the company. Okay,
almonds,
guys. There
bunch
you go.
of
Now
stuff,
you got a
but there's
natural
flavors.
place.
Yeah, they're the most delicious and healthy for you snack you can get
Oh
because
yeah, I've got tons of nuts in my
yeah.
house. So I went vegan. I think it's been like almost 8 months now. So yeah, my kids love the nuts, and we live off of nuts.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
so filling. Yeah,
yeah,
they're so we had that, and that was amazing. But they were already kind of like doing their thing with it. But I wanted to create something new,
yeah.
so I created Tourmaline Spring again. With I had enough money to get the labels made, kind of just like go through that, make the branding of it. But I built the websites. I did at that point. I had done
So
every
do you have the website is the name on your shirt? Okay.
tourmalinespring.com. Yep.
Okay, you're gonna have to show it a little bit more.
Here, I'll
There,
so
there you go. That's perfect. Tourmaline
tourmalinespring.com.
Spring. Okay, guys, write that
And
down.
there's a reason we use
I'll write it
plastic
down
too,
here too.
which believe me, I've taken a heavy hit from people about plastic, but when they look deeper and they hear the reasons why, they get it. It's like it's a scale thing. We're a small company. We can only do what we can do.
Oh, I
And
totally understand.
yeah, I've
There's a lot of
researched
breakage with glass too.
a lot of breakage, and in Maine it freezes. And people, we have so many people who, oh, we'd buy your water if it was in glass, but then they won't pay for it. So it's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
technology exists to do everything green. But until big corporations start implementing those technologies, the small companies can't do it because we can't afford it. We can't take the hit.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
this is a progressive change.
Maybe those have you ever seen those cardboard ones? Are they cardboard?
Yeah. The
I
problem
don't
with
know.
that
It's
is
gonna be
they're
crushed
lined.
though, right? Right? I don't know.
The inside of those cardboard is lined with a plastic that is very porous and actually leaches into the water, which
Yeah,
is
man,
a big problem.
yeah, that wouldn't do good for your water. So
Yeah. So there's, again, like I said, anybody who wants to doubt and say we're not the real deal, like I have so much research. I've gone through everything, and we know that what we offer is perfect. Now, if you were to put this in the sun,
uh-huh.
it would start to break down. But water should be stored like wine in a cool, dark
Oh
place. That's
yeah.
where it comes from. Anyway, I'll kind of expedite this here. So I started this thing with no money. I literally went from store to store pitching it, you know, literally built it brick by brick, got hundreds of accounts by doing that. I was getting
Wow.
like an 80%, success rate, a closing rate of
Yeah,
getting
that's good.
accounts.
That's really good.
Once I got all these accounts, I got a distributor to pick it up, literally just built it from nothing with my own passion because I was so passionate about what it represented and what
Oh
it had
yeah.
the potential to represent.
Definitely, especially
If
with your story.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it aligns with you perfectly.
yeah,
Purity and pure water. Yeah, it's definitely what you're made to do. So, yeah, so you got a bunch. Is it local businesses and things like that, or was it like
it
gyms
is. It
or
is. It's mostly
yeah?
regional. We're in Whole Foods, but it's New England, a lot of where most of it is.
Okay.
But we've gotten massive publicity, like really, really big media stuff. And in fact, in 2018, there was something called the raw water trend.
Huh.
And we got literally grouped into that. And it was the mainstream media literally attacking every company, which there was only two companies. There was one on the West Coast and ours that were offering
Yeah.
untreated spring water. But we knew, I mean, we've been doing this for, it has a 300-year-old
It's
history.
kind of funny that it's called raw, because
Yeah,
it shouldn't be natural, like a natural
yeah.
like we shouldn't be treating our water, guys. I have a well here and I don't do anything to it.
Yes, and that's the thing. Millions of Americans drink untreated water. And so, but anyhow, it turned into this thing where at first I didn't even know what was happening. I had no idea that they were actually saying that people who are selling raw water are idiots and morons and they're going to kill somebody. I
Yeah.
didn't know that's what happened, and it went viral. Like it turned
Oh
into this
no.
huge thing. So I've got CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox News, like all these places calling, like, we want to interview you about your company, Tourmaline Spring. And I'm like, yeah, like it's like a dream come true. But
Yeah,
then
definitely.
when I realized that they actually wanted to totally destroy us,
Oh
I was like,
no.
oh, like,
Oh,
it was like the
no.
greatest opportunity, and then it turned into like the greatest nightmare.
Yeah.
But
So what happened? Did you actually
we're
talk
not.
to them and say,
Yes.
hey, this is our reports, this is what, we actually do.
So they didn't actually want to know the truth, most of them. But
Yeah.
as a result of all these big ones, there's all these small media outlets who did want to know the truth and
Oh
actually
yeah.
did want to report on it factually. So it was like I mean, I can't even believe how many interviews my business partner and I did. Like, we just went through the ringer. You know, big shows, CBS came up there. They were actually cool. They were neutral. They
Yeah.
came up there
Good.
like ready to just tear us apart. But after they saw everything that we had done and that it truly was authentic and had integrity, they were like, oh, wow, okay. So they did a very neutral piece, you know?
Good. That's
But
good.
they flew my friend out up to the Doctor's TV show, which is a major show. And I mean, it was just the most insane thing. But at the end of the day, it helped way more than it hurt,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. Yeah,
But
definitely.
that's because we stood firm. We stood our ground and we were just so convicted to what we knew was authentic.
Oh
And we
yeah,
ended up,
definitely. Yeah, you
yeah,
gotta, yeah, definitely stick up for, you and what you're doing. That's there. I think there always has to come a point in your life where it's just like, is my boundaries important? And then you gotta really say, well, what else? What am I doing if they're not? If my boundaries aren't important, then what am I doing? What am I doing in my life? What am I, who's taking advantage of me? Who am I letting take advantage of me? So I'm definitely glad that, you were just like, no, they're not gonna, take us down. We're gonna actually, give this all we got and, actually tell them this is the way it's gonna go. So
and of course, like if you type up my name or you type up the company name, you'll see a lot of these
of
interviews.
course, yeah.
And of course, like the big networks, it doesn't matter how well you defend yourself, they're
Mhm.
going to edit it and they're going to make
That's
it
it.
into exactly what they want it to be.
Why do you think I made this show?
Yeah.
I was like, I am so tired of fake news.
Yes.
And we need real people. We need real people. We need to stop the telephone game. When we were a kid and we would say something and then the next person like add something on, the next person would like totally change the sentence because they weren't really paying attention. And then somebody like cropped it. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not even a story. It's not even like correct at all. And it's like, why can't we just get real news straight from the source and just like, let's see, instead of taking like a snippet, why don't we actually, get rid of some ads and actually hear real news that's actually insightful, inspiring, and will actually make everybody's life better because we'll actually have real facts. Like it will actually mean something. It should be like books, where books, people actually take time to write a book. It's not like 10 minutes and it's done.
Yeah.
It
No,
actually takes time to write a book and they
I
put
wrote a book.
real knowledge.
I
Yeah,
have.
and you did. You said, so tell me about the book.
So it's essentially, I wrote it in prison. Okay. It was one of the things that I did to reflect. So it wasn't just all internal meditation. I would meditate, I would go inward, and I would write out everything that I could because I basically wrote everything that I remembered about my life from the beginning because I wanted to look for patterns of thoughts, behaviors, of certain ways of being that were preventing me, that were causing me to make stupid decisions that would land me in prison, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I wrote this thing never intending to publish it at all. It was only just a way
Self-reflection.
for me to help myself.
Mhm.
But and it was 1,050 handwritten pages, so it was like giant.
Yeah.
But I let a few people read it and they were like, you've got to publish this. And, I thought about it and years went by. Long story short, I found somebody who helped me edit it and we made it into 300 pages. And randomly, a massive publishing agency found out about it. Eckhart Tolle, who The Power of Now, all that. His
Okay, cool.
publishing
That's cool.
agency found
Yeah.
out about it by chance. And they were like, this is amazing. We want to represent you. We think we can get you a huge deal. And this book could sell, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, if not millions of copies. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really,
People. Hmm.
but so I was in a contract with them for a year and a half. And
That's quite a while.
they didn't get a book deal because I didn't have a platform at that point because I had been in
Okay.
prison. Like I wasn't focusing
Yeah.
on building a platform. And the industry has changed so much that, it's just like the way book deals work now are very different than the way they used to. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was about to put this book out right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
And then that
That's so
happened. And then I
crazy.
was like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna like step back. But now I look and I'm like, oh my God, it's more relevant
It is.
than ever. And I've let a bunch of people read it in the meantime, and they're like, this book will save lives. Like, please put it out there because
We need more positivity.
yeah,
We need real news. We need people that really tell their story, like how it was and how, the struggle and, the success, exactly what this is, and yeah, definitely, when you get it out there, you're going to self-publish it.
yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah.
self-publish it for now. I'll probably start with Amazon and then start printing it, and I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go through
I
it.
have four actually coloring books that I drew and put out there for the homeschool community because my kids have always been homeschooled. So
Oh,
that's something that I was doing to not only strengthen my painting skills because I've been a long time painter. I wanted to take more more strict ways of forcing myself to draw. So I figured a coloring book would be definitely one of those things. So I did four. I actually have three more that is kind of not done. But yeah, so I have some familiarity with working with Amazon and self-publishing. So
mm.
yeah, definitely a good
And it
route
worked
to
out
go.
good for you. You were able to.
Oh yeah, like I've got lots of reviews and things on Amazon, and I've been doing well. I've worked with Amazon since I would say I don't know, actually. I guess 2012 or something.
Mm,
And so I've got, I wouldn't say I have thousands of reviews. I think I have like 180 or something like that. But it's out there.
yeah,
I don't really, it's not one of the big things I did for, publicity or anything like that. It was
yeah.
something I did for my kids, and I figured if other homeschool families want to use it, they can, go and buy it off Amazon. So, and I actually have it in some local shops around here too. So I actually get a lot through the local community here, because they hear about it and they see that I have other books because it's more visual.
Mm,
So, it's not lost in all the Amazon books, especially
yeah.
coloring books. When you type in coloring books, there's a lot out there. And mine are very unique too. So they're not traditional. So,
Cool. I'll check them out. Maybe I have an 8-year-old son, so
oh, okay. Yeah, I
check
can
'em
send
out.
you the information on that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's under my name, so everything's under my name. I
Yeah,
keep it easy. So,
the way to do that, right?
yeah.
Simplify everything and
Oh,
keep.
yeah. It definitely, especially with so many more people online and everything. It's hard. So let's see. So you got the book launch coming. You definitely found a company that fits you very well. Let's see. Any other things that you want to tell anybody that's listening to this, and really drill home how important it is to find that clarity in life, and you know any tips that you can give them on discovering like how they can find their direction? Because you said you came out with nothing, and then you found out that your friend was doing this thing with the water, and then you were just, how did that actually happen? Did you were just like, yes, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what I want to do. I can't imagine that was.
So when you get beyond yourself, when you get beyond your past, when you get beyond the things that keep you in a limited perceptual container, meaning that you're only focusing on the past and the things that hold you back, and you open your awareness and you realize that something much greater is happening in your own body. There's something beating your heart. There's a much greater force that holds the natural universe in place. The more you train yourself and make a habit to know that that's going on and that that's there, then you start to learn how to trust that if it can cause, solar systems and galaxies and universes to exist, it can surely help you with the details of your life.
Yes.
So it's in learning that that is actually what's really going on, and that you are a part of that, and that if you get yourself into a pattern, into a habit of knowing that's happening, trusting that's happening, and then feel gratitude, feeling elevated emotions, and then start thinking thoughts your own thoughts, but that come from that elevated place, then you start to create a future. You start to literally envision how you might like things to happen in your life. And they never happen the way you're thinking, but you're still planting seeds that will eventually grow fruit, you could say. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to learn to trust life. And for me, like, it took hitting rock bottom before I didn't, it didn't have to be like that. If
Yeah.
I would have known that I could live like this and be like this without going through these intense initiations, you could say, I would have, my life would look very different now. But it took for me hitting rock bottom before I realized, like, I need to make some serious changes. I'm going to make some serious changes, and then following through with it. So
Yeah.
it's that, it's, if you learn, you teach yourself to trust life, even if you don't like what you're seeing, then eventually life, you could say, starts to reciprocate. It starts to literally become these greater, this greater force, this greater way of being starts to become an active participant in your life. And you will just attract people, places, things, whatever, that support you staying in that place. Now, it's not like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, use the law of attraction and make millions of dollars. Not there's anything wrong with that. What it's more like is that it wants you to live in integrity with what you actually are. And that's going to look different for everybody, you know? So when you get in alignment with this force that is animating your being and allowing you to even exist in a human form, and you realize that it is what is actually going on, then you can become an active participant in creating your life more in a kind of a version of what you feel would serve you best. But it's like, once you start doing that, you have to continue to give credit to where credit is due. So it's getting beyond your ego, it's getting beyond your limited past, and choosing to associate with an open or an unlimited future through
Yeah.
that. That's really
Yeah.
what it is. And anybody can do it. Like, I am no different than anybody else. If there is any difference in me, it's that I put in so many hours trying to figure this out, because I wanted change so much in my own life. I was so,
Oh, Seth, I think we timed out or something. Or let's see. No, you froze. You see me, Seth? Uh-oh, I think Seth lost connection here, guys. Let's see if we can get him back on. Hey, Seth. All right, guys, we'll give it a couple more minutes. Let's see if I can get Seth back on. Let me check over everything here. Oh, I think it dropped. Okay, let me see if I can get Seth back on and see what he was gonna say there. We missed a little bit of his ending there, and hopefully, I can get him back on here in another minute or two, so we can, see what he was gonna say. Okay, we'll just wait a second here and see if we can get him back on. Thank you guys for watching, by the way. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for being a subscriber. Please feel free to share this message with your community, with your group. These messages of hope are meant to inspire those that might not actually say they're going through a difficult part of their life, but that will really encourage them to self-reflect and learn off of these real stories to find hope in their own lives. So my name is Amena K. Thornton, and you can find these videos on the YouTube channel under my name, Amena K. Thornton. To find those really easily, you can just go to amena.media. That's AMENA .media. And we are waiting here to see if Seth Pruzansky. Sorry, Seth, if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm just gonna leave this as Zoom open here, and hopefully we can reestablish connection here shortly. Either way, guys, to listen to the podcast One Up to hear this story, or if you're already listening to it on one of the stations that we broadcast, we are currently on 6 stations now. Thank you for being an active listener. But if you aren't, you just go up over and get any of your stations from Anchor, like a boat anchor, right? Throw it in, anchor.fm/one. That's spelled out, ONE, up, all one word. So that's anchor.fm/one up. And I do appreciate your patience here as we are reconnecting and waiting for Seth to come back on here. So let me see if I can get him back on. I'm going to actually see if I can send him a message here and see if we can reconnect. So let me just grab this. Okay, bear with me, guys. I'm gonna see if I can get Seth back on. Okay, if not, then I'll just close this out for the night and wish you guys all well. Hopefully you guys are doing amazing, and I wish you guys all many blessings and much light. We are just waiting for Seth to come back on. His video looked like it just got disconnected, so I'm just trying to reconnect with him now. So just bear with me. Okay, let's see. Let me check over the rest of the connections while we're waiting here, so just bear with me a second. Let's see. Okay, let's see if that's working. It looks like some of the Zoom didn't connect. We're just waiting on it to reconnect here on everything. Oh, there we go. Hi, Seth, are you there?
Yes, my God.
Okay.
I don't.
What happened?
Had a brief interruption, I think.
That's okay. It looks like the Facebook cut out too. So I'll just, when I do the editing, I'll just add in the ends here. So yeah, where were we?
I think I was just giving closing remarks. Yeah.
You were doing amazing. You were really doing amazing there. So yeah, you were saying, definitely how, what is the word? Like finding purity and definitely finding a peace within all that. So you said it much better than I can right now. But yeah,
It's just trusting your source. It's trusting that you are not just who you think you are. You are something way greater than that. And when you get beyond who you think you are, then your innate greatness starts to just rise up naturally on its own, like a spring in the woods,
Spring in the woods.
It comes up, you become aware of it, and then you think and feel and make choices and display actions that are in alignment with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you see the results in your life. And that doesn't, to me, that's true success. Now, does it make you like, oh, I want to make tons of money? If you do that and you're not in integrity with your source, it's probably not going to work.
Well,
but if you are truly in integrity,
I'm gonna jump in for a second.
Yeah,
I know so many people that are not happy with their money they made when they finally reach success, when they think of success as money, and it really isn't. Success is more about like our talk here today. It's about finding that inner peace, finding your purpose in life. It's nothing about the money. It's all about money is really just a tool that we've developed just to find happiness. Whereas that, a lot of people think that money is the happiness, and it's not. Um, so, if you guys are thinking, like, you're watching this video or listening to this podcast thinking, okay, he's going to tell me how to make lots of money and we're going to just, make this huge corporation and I'll be happy. You need to really self-reflect and find what really makes you who you are and what makes you passionate, and just go with that. The money will come. The money always will come, just as long as you're true to yourself and always give back to somebody. Seth is giving back this amazing water, but it's that attraction, right? That law of attraction, where you have to give before you receive. And then where you were saying that what was the thing that you just said? I was going to use that. Where you have to put out, if you put out the negativity, you're going to have negativity, and if you put out the positivity, you're going to have more positivity. And it's like a magnet, I guess.
That's exactly, it's a state of being. And that's why I said in the beginning of all this stuff, like, I could have, had I known what I was doing, I could have changed instantly.
Yeah.
But because I was trying to figure it out and didn't know, and this, like, it took a while. But when you know what it is, then all of a sudden you just change and you're like, oh my God, like, I'm not going to subject myself to feeling like a victim. I love life. I want to feel love. I want to express love. I want to create a vision of life with me in it that is reflective of how I actually feel about it. And sometimes we don't know how we actually feel about life until we dig deep,
Yeah.
So it's like
I
that.
guess that would be because we're like trained, or we're so looking at the negative, right?
Conditioned. Well, and
And
it's even more simple than that. It's just simply that we're conditioned to perceive ourselves according to what we've already experienced. So we unknowingly are looking at our past more than we're looking at our future. And if we are looking at our future, we're doing it through the lens of the past, which causes us to anticipate more of the same.
yeah.
But it's like, by becoming present, letting go of all that stuff, choosing, like, okay, I am not the person I think I am. I'm something else. Before I was conceived, what was I? There was something happening. I'm still that now. You're still that now. We are that now. But it's almost like as soon as we take this form, we forget that something much greater is happening. And to me, that is the
And it still is. It still is. It's still all around us.
it's never stopped. In fact, it's what's really happening, and this is a whole other thing, is it's trying to have a greater evolutionary expression through us. But we forget. And so we just start thinking that, oh, I'm me, this is my life, the things around, like, and we create a mental and emotional prison of our own making.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for me, going to prison, like, I was in prison long before I was physically incarcerated. I was literally just playing these programs over and over in my head and in my heart and feeling like life was out to get me. And you know what? It was. It was totally out to get me. When I realized that when I began to trust it, it's like it was out to get me because it wanted to teach me what I was capable of. It literally was. And so these hard experiences, these initiations, you could call it, would happen to me like they happen to many people. But if we don't trust life, if we don't realize that these terrible things sometimes are coming in the disguise of a lesson that is attempting to show us something greater, then we get stuck in that negative spiral, that victim mentality that brings us down. But if we're like, okay, I don't like this, but it's something greater than me, it burns, it hurts, it's this and that, but I'm just gonna calm down, I'm gonna relax, I'm just gonna let it be what it's gonna be and trust that.
And then it makes it worse. It makes it worse.
Well, when you trust it, when you learn how to do that, then the thing that was kicking your ass is suddenly lifting your ass up. It's like bringing you to a new state
Yeah.
where you're like, oh my God, like, and that's always what it is.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need these wake up calls because we're just so conditioned to perceive things in a limiting way, and life is not limited.
That's
It
true. It's very abundant. It's very, very abundant. Yeah. It's meant to keep growing and live and grow more and reproduce. And yeah,
it's
definitely
trying to evolve, it's trying to
is.
grow, and it's trying to take on new expressions of what it's already done. So it's like we can either be a part of that process or we can try to block that process.
Yeah,
And if
definitely.
we block it, it's like a dam, like with a river, but this is like an infinite river. Like that dam isn't going to hold it forever. Eventually it's
Yeah.
going to break that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can
Definitely.
be in the flow and live in accordance with it, or we can fool ourselves and think like, oh no, I'm not going to live like that. I'm going to be me. This is my life. This is the past. I'm a victim. She hurt me. He hurt me. They hurt me. This hurt me. Oh wow, poor me. Like we do that to
Yeah.
ourselves very easily.
Yeah.
And we think that's normal. When in fact, that is really us just living completely disconnected with what we truly are.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn things the hard way sometimes. But when it happens and it's hard, if we can find it within ourselves to allow this process to unfold, and we can be graceful about it, we can trust it, we can find it within ourselves to be at ease. My God, like it's like you said, it's a limitless, abundant universe. It is a life force that literally gives life unto life.
Hmm.
And look, I was so sick when I went in there. I didn't think I was going to even survive just
Yeah.
from the food. When
Oh,
I began to tap into this, my body began to heal, my mind, like every part. It's like, again, like
everything heals.
everything, because it's like this is the same energy that creates new life and makes universes. Like, do we really believe that we're not, that we're so special that we'd be not included in that?
Oh,
It
well,
wants
I
us.
think we as humans think we're above everything, but we got to realize that, we're just like everything else in this planet. We're made of the same stuff, the same energy. And, once, like you said, you release that um to the universe and just say, listen, I do take back my control, and I do feel aligned with everything around me. That you bring that inner peace, but you also realize that you can definitely harmonize and find a new direction and peace with everything, that even the bad stuff. So definitely, thank you for coming on, Seth. It's been a lovely, lovely chat that we've had here. I do want you to tell about what they can, where can they get the water? So where
So
can
the
they get
three
their
places,
water? And yeah,
yeah,
so
tourmalinespring.com, and that's Tourmaline spring, spring.com. Living Nuts, LIVINGNUTZ.com.
mhm.
And I have a blog too called I'mAwakeNowWhat.com.
I'm awake now. What?
Yeah.
Okay. .com. And would the book information be on there?
Yes. So the blog,
Okay.
I've had it for a few years. It's being all revamped and set into motion now. There's some stuff on there, but
Okay.
as soon as I release the book, I'm going to be
Do you
releasing
have
it
do you
through
have
there.
like a newsletter or something like that yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
And if they
will.
have any questions, can they reach you through Facebook or through the
Yes.
website? Okay.
So my personal Facebook page is where like I'm most active. I've used that as a blog
Okay.
for a while.
Okay, so if you guys need to connect with Seth, contact him through Facebook would be the best place.
Yeah. And
For
I encourage people to read through that stuff and watch the videos. And if you like or resonate with anything that I'm sharing here, like that's where a lot of content that I produced is. So
Is that on the Facebook page, on your
Mhm.
personal Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And for the Tourmaline water, that's the .com, I assume, right?
Yes. I mean,
Okay. Can you order like packages of water or?
it's expensive to order by the case online just because each case weighs 30 pounds. So there was
Okay.
no, I mean, we were almost like, should we not you know, because it's a local business. We
Oh
ship
yeah, totally understand.
locally.
And if you guys want to support the local community,
Yes.
you're going to have to, fork up a little bit of money because,
Yeah.
us as small business
We're
people,
worth it. We're worth
yeah,
supporting, you know? So
definitely try our best to keep prices low. But, I totally understand. So,
yeah, shipping is what it is.
yeah, it is. Yeah, the weight of the product.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's been amazing having you on here. So you guys, we just finished up talking to Seth Pruzansky.
Pruzansky.
Pruzansky. I tried. My name is Amena K. Thornton, and this is a message of hope. Seth just shared us a message of hope dealing with how he went to prison, and he found purity in that, and self-discovery that gave him new life and new direction, and finding an amazing, pure, natural, raw water company. And with that, how everybody stay healthy with real water, right? Because there's so much water out there with so much impurities and not natural. So definitely check out his website, tourmalinewater.com.
TourmalineSpring.com. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, tourmalinesspring.com. And then he also came out with a book, or is coming out with a book. Do we have a book title yet?
The Fight to Enlight. It's called The Fight to Enlight, and then the subtitle is Initiation Through the Heart is the Only Way to Win.
Okay, I don't know if I can remember all that off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
You can go to I'mAwakeNowWhat.com.
Okay,
I'll have it
so
on there.
go support Seth and his book. So he'll let you know when that's coming out at, what was the website again?
I'mAwakeNowWhat.com.
I'mAwakeNowWhat.com. I'mAwakeNowWhat.com. Perfect, way to remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Seth. I totally enjoyed our conversation today, and love that you came on and shared your story. Thank you for your time. Thank you guys for all the listeners, all the watchers on YouTube, all the listeners on the podcast. To listen to more stories and messages of hope, please subscribe to whatever station that you're listening to this on. We're on 6 stations now, but it's all under the One Up podcast, which you can find at anchor.fm. That's like FM radio. So anchor.fm/one-up. And my name is Amena K. Thornton, and thank you again for staying tuned. Take care. So, bye, Seth. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Mina.
Thank you. Take care.